All right. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to ULTradez. My name is David Whiteley, and I am here on this Monday afternoon. It is Monday, August 21st. Today is my, or this video at least, is my trade recap video for today. And if you've been following me, the purpose of the channel is really to document my process or my journey, right? To get 20 Apex accounts past their evaluation phase, funded, and eventually to pay out. And it's been a bumpy ride. This is my first recap video in 10 days. I didn't do anything last week, and I think Thursday, the week before that, was my last video. Friday that week, I actually had a profitable day. But then last week was just a rough week. And so I've had, just to kind of catch you up on where I'm at, it's really been 3 kind of rough weeks, kind of all in a row. And, nothing seemed to be working. And I do, my other video series on mindset, and my mindset was not great. And I just, these YouTube videos are a byproduct, right, of the trading. The trading comes first. And so I had to take some time, to where I was focusing on my trading, dialing in some things, recalibrating. And I just wasn't thinking about making YouTube videos. I had to prioritize, and that's what I did. So really I spent last week was, another rough week. Essentially where I'm at today. So let's see if I can do this. So here's the P&L for today. Right now I have 10 accounts. All 10 of these accounts, I started them last week, and I really didn't trade them much. I had a little bit of winning, a little bit of losing. And actually Friday I took just kind of a dumb trade, and I was down like $300 or something, and I didn't trade anymore. Today I'll go over the trades that I did take. I took 4 or 5 trades, some winners, some losers. I'm up $47. The last trade that I took it violated my rules. And so I kind of put myself in timeout and said, okay, you're done for the day. If you can't follow your rules, then, you're out. So the objective here is really just to get these 10 accounts, slow walk them to the finish line. And, it really comes down to what's your strategy to get there, because there's numerous strategies. And so one of the things, as you may or may not be aware, I also trade SPY options and actually SPX options that I trade on a SPY chart. And I'm not like wildly successful over there, but I have been consistently profitable. And one of the challenges that I have is my strategy for futures right now is very different from my strategy for options, which doesn't make sense to me. When you think about it, they should be, you could trade ES in theory the same way you trade SPY, because they basically move the same. And for some reason I just can't bridge that gap. It's this weird thing. So that's really what I'm trying to dial in, because at the end of the day, there's 100 strategies out there, and probably 99 of them work just fine. The real question is, what strategy can you execute with confidence, regularly, consistently, that gives you the results that you need? So whether it's Bob Anderson's strategy, whether it's like ICT, whether it's there's a dozen straight price action, which is basically what I do on SPY. You just have to find the strategy, the rhythm, that works for you. And trying to do somebody else's strategy, there's a learning curve there. Just because they can execute it seamlessly with no issues every time, and it just works like magic, it doesn't necessarily mean it will work for you right out of the gate. You have to really understand it. You kind of have to get dialed into it. And that's really what I feel like I have to do, is really dial in my strategy. And I'm all about having, multiple tools in the toolbox, because as markets change, as things, evolve, a strategy that works today may not work, as well at a different time. If you learn a strategy, you know, in the fall, when the markets are moving a little more rhythmically, summertime comes around and it may not work as well. And I think that's kind of what I'm running into, is my strategy, which in futures, which is the strategy Bob Anderson teaches, basically rejections off of, you know, the 9 EMA and the 21 SMA. Those worked really well, you know, during kind of the, you know, the school year, I guess, for lack of a better term. And in the summertime, it can still work, but the market's more choppy. You have to, you know, be a little more shrewd in your entries, I think. And so, really, the skill of trading, in my mind, comes down to being able to adapt, being able to pull out different tools at different times, depending on what the market is giving to you. And so that's what I'm in the process of doing, is kind of dialing that in. So today, my focus was in SPY, as it always is. If something's setting up there, that's where my focus is going to be, because that's, you know, that's the money that I live off of. So I have to get those trades. And, you know, there would have been a good trade in ES at the same time, but I was trading it in SPY. Got a couple good SPY trades today, so that was good. And futures just didn't really, you know, like I said, they were kind of bumpy for me today. So let's walk through those trades. One thing, if you wouldn't mind, you know, if you're watching these videos, I'm really kind of curious to know what content you guys find most interesting. Is it most interesting to go over the actual trades I took and my rationale behind them? Is it just more interesting to kind of show my P&L balance and maybe some highlights? You know, what's the content that, you know, is most interesting? Because you know, I don't want to really just ramble on here about the same kind of trades all the time, but if that's something that is useful and interesting, I'm happy to do it. So let me know in the comments. All right, here's a trade I took in oil. Now I'll point out first, there were much better entries than this earlier in the day, and maybe I'll point one of those out just so you can see. So the strategy basically says that we're looking for rejections off of this gold line, which is the 5-minute 9 EMA, and the 9 EMA based off of the 5-minute time frame. This red line is the 21 SMA based on the 5-minute timeline. And those are really the two that I'm focused on. The thinner lines, this thinner yellow line is the 1-minute 9 EMA, and this is the 1-minute 21 SMA. And so here we have, you know, we have a couple rejections off of those early. The best one is probably this guy here, because we come down, we create a new pivot low. You know, price is kind of bouncing around, comes down. We have a pivot low. We have a push up into the 9 EMA. You could take a break of this candle, and I mean, that just dropped through. You are taking it into the overnight open, but trying to see if we really haven't had a test of the overnight open up to this point. So that is a consideration. However, because this overnight open is so far away from your entry, it's not, let's see where it is. The overnight open is 76. Your entry based on this would be 96. So it's exactly 20 ticks away. So you do have enough room to make this work. And you know, this would have been a great entry. Over here, this is the first touch of this moving average. Price comes up here, it breaks through and closes on the other side of this line, which resets the count. And what I mean by that is you never want to take the third test of the line. The first and second are really the only ones, or the ones that generally provide the best results. So here's a retest, or not a retest, but here's a reset, and then price comes down. So for all intents and purposes, I view this as kind of the first touch after this reset. So that's really good. That would have been a nice trade. Okay. Now I'm looking at other things at that time. I didn't see it. I check in on oil later in the day. Here we have a cross above both EMAs. Price moves above both EMAs. Okay. And this one is just kind of like questionable, really. In fact, I almost didn't take it, and I shouldn't have. But I was being stubborn, saying, well, if it touches, I'm going to get in. So I did. Didn't work out. But we have price come up here, create a high. We come down here. You know, it's 10:52, 11 o'clock Central, which is about the time that this red line becomes more valid. this candle here breaches it. I put my stop in one tick above, comes in, ticks me in, and just kind of bounces around here, ticks me out right here. You almost can't see it. It's right at the end of this candle here was where my 10 tick stop loss was. And I got stopped out. Now, interestingly enough, that this candle comes exactly down, if you look to the left, right to where this candle came down. So I think this is a case where your stop losses, I go into these with a 10 tick stop loss, which is very arbitrary. And you could probably look at this and say, well, you should have moved it down a tick just to put it beneath, that last pivot. Maybe that would have at least given me an opportunity maybe to get out for break even. Regardless, that was a loss. That was my only trade in oil. Then the trade in RTY. And so RTY is the one I'm watching primarily. And I did adjust my strategy a little bit. This is sort of my adaptation to Mr. Bob Anderson's strategy. I don't wait for the break of the candle when there's the first touch of the line after the cross. I actually put the order. You can enter an order. Are we live? Yeah, we are. If you don't know, if you put an order in here to say sell to, okay, because we think it might go down, for example, you can right click this, go over here, and you can attach it to the indicator. And if you click properties, you could attach it to one of your SMAs. So say we wanted to attach it to the gold line, that's the 5-minute 9 here, and then put a tick offset if you wanted, one tick above or below it. And so cancel that because I don't want to buy something now. And so that's what I'm doing. That's kind of my revised. And again, that's only for the first touch. And this is not a strategy that I've exhaustively backtested. I have backtested it to the point where I'm pretty confident in it. But I'm not necessarily saying you should do that. That's just what I did here. So price comes up. I actually didn't get my order in fast enough. Otherwise it would have ticked in on this candle, but I got in on this candle. And then I have my ATM strategy set up to sell. Enter it with 2 contracts, sell the first after 10 ticks, sell the second after 20. This started to move down pretty fast. And so I actually moved my target down 10 ticks. So I actually got 30 ticks out of my second contract. So that was a winning trade. Worked out perfectly. The next thing I'm waiting for is really a cross. I'm not going to take the second or third touches here, and I'm not going to take the red line this early, even though that would have been a good trade. So here's the next trade that I saw. All right. So the next trade was a gold line trade. And this one broke my rules too, because my revised rules say that anything after 11 o'clock Central Time is red line only. However, because everything was staying so low here, I didn't expect it to just push through. And it was pretty close to 11, so I went ahead and took the reaction off the gold line. I took it here because we had a reset right up here. Okay, price comes above this gold line, which resets the count again. So this is the first touch after the reset. Reset, first touch. I got in. It went. My first contract sold at 10 ticks. It was obviously struggling, so I moved my profit target down to 10 ticks. Now, ironically, it was a good thing, right? Because it did end up going up. So I got them both out for 10. I think I got some slippage here, so this one maybe only got 9 on the second contract. Anyway, it was a winning trade, so that was good. This is the trade that broke my rules, and I put myself in timeout after this. The rule that it broke, because what I saw was price was crossed above both EMAs. Okay, so now we're above this 21 SMA, we're above the 9 EMA, and so we're looking for a first touch again. The problem is that my rules, and again based on my back testing, say that the touches only count, and I'm only allowed to take a trade above the red line, above this 21 SMA, when the 9 EMA is also above it. Okay, so in other words, these things need to be stacked in this way in order to take a long. This gold line would have to be below the red line in order for me to take a short. not just taking longs above the red line or a short below the red line. Okay, that's just my rule. That's the rule that I broke. I was just too excited to get into this. I got into it, and I ended up getting stopped out. Now, I did move my stop up because I got nervous, and I got nervous because as soon as I got in, I was like, oh no, I'm not, the gold line hasn't crossed yet. Okay, so now I don't know if this is just a reset and then I'm going to come underneath. And in fact, when I saw the price come under here, come up, and then pull back off of the red line, that's what I saw. This was an underside retest, and I was afraid it was going to continue to come down, and that's why I stopped out my second contract right there. Okay. So I didn't allow this to go the full stop. Now, ironically, had I left my stop alone, it chopped around for a long time, but it would have worked out actually, because my stop is 25 ticks. So, I mean, I never even got close to that at 52.4 up to 54.1. Well, it wouldn't have hit because I would have had a 25 tick stop. So I would have been okay, but it would have worked. So would have been long and slow and painful. And in fact, had I waited, the better entry would have been to wait for all this chop to happen. Right here, we have a cross of the moving averages. So the gold line is now above the red line. Price comes down, taps the red line for the first touch since this cross, since price crossed above it here, and the crossing of the moving averages themselves. Had I have got in here, that would have easily been my 20 ticks. Very painless, very easy. Okay. So because I was too anxious, I broke my rules, and I wasn't able to, to suffer through all of this. So that was a loss that took away some of my profits, and I said, okay, I better call it a day. So those were my trades. Don't know if that's of any use to anybody, but that's where we're at. Moving forward, I am still going to be using this strategy on RTY, looking for these reactions off of these lines. However, I am going to be looking more at ES from a price action standpoint in order to trade ES much more like I trade my SPY contracts, which is a strategy that's working for me over there. So I don't have that defined to the point where I can really share anything useful, and I don't have any trades yet. So once I do, we'll show that information once we have some trades and some information. But that's all I got. So hopefully this, was useful or interesting. If it was, give me a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks so much. Hopefully you guys had a great day. Remember, trade your plan, trade safe. We'll see you tomorrow.